What I thought I would talk about today is miracles, a little bit about miracles. That is, so I have blessings in front of everybody here because that's the way it's supposed to work. Because, well, first of all, this week's Torah portion is Noah, the story of Noah, because we just, of course, started again with Bereshit, with the beginning, celebrating Simchat Torah, and now we're doing our annual cycle. The very beginning of Noah, I'm going to read the first sentence, basically that's it. The very beginning of Noah says, Eila toldot Noah, this is the history. Welcome. Did you see the rabbi's lovely wife, Didi, over there? Go say hello. Gloria Grossblatt's here. Happy to have you, Gloria. So, Gloria will sit wherever. Anyway, this is the generation of the history of Noah. And it says, Noah, Ish Tzadik Tamim Haya B'Dorotav. It's a famous, the most famous phrase actually in the whole portion of Noah is Noah was a tzaddik. He was righteous and pure. And then there's a kind of but, which is Tamim Haya B'Dorotav. He was righteous B'Dorotav, which means in his generation. And because he was righteous in his generation, the most righteous, we all know the story of the flood and Noah, therefore God picked him to be the survivor, he and his family and all the animals and stuff that went in the ark, and he started the world again. It was like creation all over again, creation number 2. And of course, at the end of the story of Noah with the flood and the whole world is destroyed, God shows up again and says, okay, I won't do that anymore. Promises, I won't destroy the world anymore. And I'll put a sign in the heavens to remind myself, says God, basically, and everybody else, that the world won't be destroyed. And the sign is the rainbow. So the rainbow becomes, in Jewish tradition, this symbol of hope and faith in the future. Because God says, this is a sign that I won't destroy the world anymore. But the rabbis go to great length, having in the Talmud, in rabbinic literature, discussing, well, just how righteous was Noah, after all, because, one more thing I wanted to tell you from this week's Torah portion in Hebrew. It then says, Vishtachet haaretz lifnei ha'elohim, the earth became corrupt before God, v'timalei haaretz, and the earth was filled with Hamas. It's the only place the word shows up. Hamas, whom we know and hate, know and don't love. Hamas, and the Hebrew word means violence. Violence. How appropriate. In any event, so the world was filled with Hamas, and therefore the world got destroyed. This is not a commentary on the Israel situation, but just happens to be this week's Torah portion. So the rabbis, anyway, have all these conversations about Noah and say, if the whole world was corrupt and he was just the best they got, how good did he have to be? He just had to be better than. I kind of think it's a good lesson in general in life. You kind of have to be good enough. I wrote a brilliant sermon once called, most of the time, good enough really is. I do say so myself. Because we have this phrase, good enough. But we mostly don't actually take it seriously. People strive to be perfect or to be better, to be this, to be that. When most of the time, it's okay to be good enough. And take those words seriously. It's good enough. You don't have to beat yourself up because you didn't win the race. Only one person wins the race. Everybody else is a runner. Well, imagine you're in the Olympics and you're the last runner. You come in last in your race. You're still in the Olympics. You're an Olympic runner, for God's sake. And yet you're going, came in last. Who are the saddest people in the Olympics? It's kind of an obvious question, but the people who get silver. The silver winners are the most depressed people in every event. The bronze people are happy. Gold, happy. Bronze, happy. Because the bronze people got a medal. They medaled in the Olympics, fighting against everybody else, and they made it. They got a medal. And the gold people obviously are happy because they got gold, and the silver people are all the people that could have got gold. They were this close and didn't make it. So they're the most depressed. And just think about that, what it says about human nature. They made silver medal in the Olympics. How amazing as an athlete in any sport do you have to be a silver medalist in the Olympics? And yet they're depressed. Across the board, it's like a given. They get depressed. And you have high expectations, and it's human nature. So sometimes we have to fight against human nature. And part of what I want to talk about today is miracles, because, as one poet once beautifully put it, we walk sightless through miracles every day. We take one of the other qualities of human beings that is kind of too bad is how quickly we become accustomed to what's regular in our life. It's like watching little kids get gifts for Hanukkah or Christmas or their birthday or whatever, and they get all excited about the gift. Come on in, all excited about the gift. They get it, and it's their gift, and 10 minutes later, it's like, okay, well, I have that now. This is our relationship with possessions in general. We like sparkly things, we like new things, we have dreams and we have aspirations, and I want to get the better car or whatever it happens to be, and you get it. And for most people, most of the time, after you have it, well, it's just something you have then. The luster sort of comes off it. And it's the same with what I would consider the everyday miracles of life. Our tradition was very conscious of that. So I have in front of everybody this sheet, not the people who may be watching this, called Waking Up in the Morning. Somewhere there's a sheet that says Waking Up in the Morning. By the way, I brought one of my favorite quotes from Ralph Waldo Emerson. Emerson said, "The purpose of life is a life of purpose." I love that. Okay. Anyway, so in the morning, Jewish tradition says, first thing you're supposed to do when you wake up is this prayer. Modeh Ani, it's called, which means literally, I thank you. Hebrew is Modeh, or if you're a girl, it's Modah. Modeh is the boy version. Modeh Ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechazarta bi nishmati v'chemla rabba emunatecha. I didn't mention it, but you just mentioned it. One of the things you traditionally do is but this traditional Jews say this before they even get out of bed. They wake up and they say, "Thank you, God, I woke up." Literally, my translation, I give thanks to you, ever-living God, that you've restored my soul to me with grace. Great, which is chemla, grace. Great is your trust in me. Which means, it says, the last two words in Hebrew, Rabba emunatecha. Emunah is faith, really. Rabba means big or great. Rabba emunatecha means great is your faith. It's an interesting way to end the prayer. What does it mean? What's God's faith? And I've always understood this to mean God's faith in me that I get another day. I got to wake up. And we are saying, literally, we're thanking God for the gift of this day that comes free to us. We don't have to pass a test. We don't have to earn it. We don't have to think we deserve it. We just have to be able to open our eyes and go, and breathe, and you got a day. And it's a free day. And it's, as every day is, absolutely open to anything. Anything can happen in that free day, good or bad. Some of us here had a free day on January 7th and our home burned down. Not the best day. But, if we're here, we weren't in it, it's exactly right, when it burned down, and here we are. 9 months, 10 months already later, whatever, 10 months later, here we are, doing whatever we're doing. Some of us starting again, some of us rebuilding, doing what the things that we're doing, and with those free days. And anything that ever happened of value, of meaning, of creativity, any advancement in the world, any creation at all, any invention in the world, any discovery in the world happened to someone in one of those free days that all they had to do was wake up. And who knew what was going to happen that day, what they were going to discover that day, or who they were going to meet that day, or what amazing thing was going to happen to them that day. So our tradition starts with this prayer every day so that we acknowledge the miracle of life itself as a divine gift, as a sacred gift. It's also, all of these prayers are morning prayers that I brought today, because I thought the wisdom of our tradition is to create lenses of gratitude through which we see the world. Look, some people wake up and you're grumpy. You wake up and you're exhausted still. You wake up and you feel like crap. You wake up there's all kinds of ways of waking up that sets the tone for you for your day. You wake up angry because you can't stop thinking about whatever you watched on TV before you went to bed, or the news, God forbid, or anything, and you wake up angry. And that's how you frame your day, until something may throw you off that course. Our tradition was very, very, very insistent on beginning our day with lenses of gratitude, so that set the mood for our day, and that set the parameters of the day, and that set the direction with which we would see the world around us. It makes a difference. Attitude is everything, right, in life. So it starts with this prayer. There's several. Actually, I didn't bring one of them. I didn't bring the body prayer. Sorry. And then Eloheinu Shema, which is a prayer about our souls. Neshama is our soul. Eloheinu Shema shenatata bi tohorai. This is about spiritual self-worth. This prayer says, God, the soul that you gave to me came pure from you. Now, I don't know about you, but most people I know, by the time they are conscious of themselves, don't feel very pure about themselves. We just went through the high holiday month where we're supposed to be doing this. We gather as a community and we list all these transgressions that somebody in the community has done. And most of us go, I didn't do that one, I didn't do that one, I didn't do that one. But somebody did all of them. Because we say it as a community. It's not for the sin that I did. It's for the transgressions that we did. That's sort of one of the great punchlines of the whole high holidays. It's in the plural. It's about us. It's about we. It's about community. We are there as a community to reinforce community and to have a sense of collective responsibility for each other and for the world. We're in this together. Because we're in this together is why we're still around. We, a little tiny group of Jews in the midst of this humongous world of billions of people now, and we're 0.02% of the world or whatever it happens to be. So very small, but loud. I know. Small numbers, loud voices. Except for your husband who's got throat issues now. But he was willing to talk to me for a long time last night. I kept saying, get off the phone. Get off the phone, Sumner. Her husband is my accountant. So this will be a fun year for Sumner, trying to figure out the taxes and all this stuff. It's going to be very interesting. Anyway, so our ancestors say, God gave me a pure soul. Every day we're supposed to say, my God, the soul you gave to me is pure. You created it, you shaped it, you breathed it into me, and you preserve it deep inside of me. This is this blessing. And then it talks about the afterlife, because this is a traditional Jewish prayer that says, and someday you're going to take my soul to everlasting life. This was the traditional Jewish notion, the Olam Haba, the world to come, that God gave us this soul in this body. We are not our bodies. We have our bodies, but this is not who we are. Obviously, it's not who we are. Our bodies are changing every second. All the cells are doing whatever they're doing, and the older we get, the more we look in the mirror and go, who is that? Because, we all have images of ourselves, our younger selves in our minds as well. And then I start doing some exercises and go, oh, I can't even do that right now. And I can't do the things my body doesn't do what it used to do, which is challenge to remember so you don't hurt yourself. Because we have our bodies, but we're not our bodies. We are our neshama, our soul, our spirit. The essence of who we are is not physical. Just the same as I often tell people, mostly around funeral issues, that when you have a relationship with someone, you love someone, it's not about their body. Even if you like their body, hopefully you like their body. And if you're a spouse or a partner or whatever, hopefully you were attracted to their body as well, but that's not the relationship. If that was the case, literally every time someone left the room, they'd cease to exist for you. If the relationship was about their body or their physical presence, and that's a ridiculous thought. And we all know, literally we experience in our everyday life, people we care about, people we love, people we know, who are not just next door and we can't see them, they're across the country or they're across the world and we can't see them. It doesn't diminish your relationship. Your kids move out, your relationship doesn't diminish. We'll go there, but it doesn't diminish, right? Wherever they're living, they move to New York, you still have the same relationship, you just don't see them as much or talk to them as much or whatever. You got more free time, whatever it happens to be, but it doesn't diminish the relationship. The relationship is spiritual. Literally spiritual. That's the nature of what we mean by spiritual. We have physical, and then we have spiritual. All relationships are spiritual, really. That last more than if it's a real relationship. It's spiritual. And so too with people we love when they die. Just because they're not in the world anymore, your relationship doesn't disappear. You don't stop thinking about them. You don't stop having the relationship any more than if they are in the next room and you can't talk to them, or living in New York or living in Paris or wherever they happen to be. And we all know that because that's our real life experience with relationships. So Jewish tradition uses this Elohai Neshama prayer essentially, I believe, to say, by the way, typo here, but because I typed it, this is not the traditional ending of this prayer, which I don't have with me, but I'll tell you, the traditional ending of this prayer is about resurrection, physical resurrection. The traditional ending of this prayer says to God, someday, almost to the last line, as long as the soul is within me, I give thanks before you, master of all deeds, source of all life. And then it says in the traditional prayer, blessed are you who revives the flesh. Because there was, or throughout certainly the Middle Ages of Jewish life, the notion of literal physical resurrection, that when the Messiah comes at the end of days, the Jewish version of the Messiah comes at the end of days, God will literally physically resurrect everybody and bring them back to Jerusalem. And there's even in the medieval times all these very detailed descriptions in rabbinic literature of tunnels under the earth because we're in the diaspora all over the place. How are you going to get to Jerusalem? Tunnels when your body gets resurrected, that you'll lead you right back to Jerusalem. It's like, whatever. But this was this notion still built in this, that God gives us this soul that is pure, and that every day you're supposed to be reminded of that. You screw up, you do whatever, you make mistakes, You may have addictions of one kind or another. You may overeat, you may overdrink, you may over this, you may over that. You may do things that make you feel bad about yourself because you've made bad choices or choices that don't nurture you and choices that don't serve you. And yet every morning, every morning, you're supposed to say this prayer to remind yourself that your neshama is Torah, that your neshama, your soul, is pure, so that everybody is born with and has forever in Jewish life spiritual self-worth, forever, no matter what you do in your life. Why, in fact, we have every Yom Kippur, it's the Day of Atonement, and the major theme is about forgiveness. It's about returning to this part, the Tohorahi, the purity of who we are, knowing that we go astray and we make mistakes, but at root, we have purity if we tap into that. Like the Desmond Tutu once said, forgiveness says you're given another chance to make a new beginning. That's the Jewish version, really. You're given another chance, start over again. But we believe that because of this, because our spiritual understanding of every human being is that our soul is pure, and that all we need to do is really believe that and live out that and act that. Okay, so the next prayer I didn't give you, but I'll just tell you about it. One of my favorites. I don't know why I didn't bring it, but I didn't. It's the prayer about your body. There is in Jewish life, if you don't ever say it, there is a prayer that literally says, here's a copy of it. Kind of like in the Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher yatzar et ha'adam b'chokhmah. Thank God who created the human being with wisdom. Uvaravo, and who created us, nekavim, chalulim, chalulim, which means holes and orifices. It's very literal and physical. Galui v'yadua lifnei kisei kavodecha, it is known and understood before the heavenly throne. She'im yipateach echad mihem, if one of the ones that's, these are talking about holes and orifices literally in our body, if the ones that are supposed to be closed where suddenly are opened, or yisatem echad mihem, or the ones that are supposed to be opened get closed, it's impossible to live, to exist, and la'amod lefanecha, and stand and exist before you. Baruch atah Adonai, kind of like the ending, blessed are you, God, Rofei kol basar, who heals all flesh, umafli la'asod, working wonders. So, this is a prayer literally about our physical bodies, acknowledging that God created our physical bodies, again, so that we can contemplate the notion that there is probably nothing more miraculous in our life than this. This that I had nothing to do with. I didn't create my own body. I have a lot to do with how my body lives and continues and acts and feels by the choices I make and what I put in it and how I act with it and what I do with it. But our tradition says, be mindful of the magic of how amazing, and this was 1,000 years ago, before we had all the modern CAT scans and MRIs and PET scans and all the things that actually look into your body and go, look at that. And the trillions of cells we have and all the stuff that goes on and what our DNA does and, all the magic and the amazing things that modern medicine can do that some of us have experienced at one moment or another with different challenges that we have physically. Our tradition says, the fact that this body works, what's more miraculous than that? The fact that the things that are supposed to be opened are opened, and the things that are supposed to be closed are closed, that the pumps work, wherever they are, that the blood flows, that all the stuff that, nobody goes, okay, heart, pump, 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 pump. You don't have to think about it. It's what we lovingly call our autonomic nervous system, if I recall. All that stuff that's going on automatic, the digestion, all the things that happen in your body the rabbis of our tradition were smart enough to say, you don't have to look anywhere else. Get up and look in the mirror. Wake up and go, oh, I woke up. That's a miracle. Look in the mirror and go, that's a miracle. Oh, that I can do this? I don't know how we do this, but I can pick this up. It's like, when your hands stop working, you know that what a miracle it is that you can do that. Things like that, right? All those. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, the tradition creates its own gratitude journal. This is Judaism's gratitude journal written for you for every morning. It's exactly right. It's beautifully put. I love that. Yeah. Anyway, yes, dear.
Prayer.
I think it probably is related because that is a traditional rabbinic notion that sleep is it's like a mini death every night, and you're literally reborn every time you open your eyes in the morning, which is why you thank God for the traditional Orthodox, if you will, the traditional rabbinic notion is that when you go to sleep, your soul leaves your body and hangs out with God somewhere, wherever God is, just I guess everywhere. But anyway, the notion is you're sleeping, your body's resting, your soul's gone, getting replenished, you should excuse the expression, juvenated. But and then because God is generous to you that day, puts your body back in your soul back in your body, and you wake up. That's the traditional image of what happens when you sleep. So, and which is why they say it's 60% death every time you sleep, because people don't wake up. That's the reality. Everybody has lived in every community with people who went to sleep and didn't wake up. They should be so lucky, because that's the way you die. Go to sleep and don't wake up, after all. But so we know that. We know that at some time it's the sleep of death. I guess that was Shakespeare. But the sleep of death is the sleep of death. So the rabbis also had that notion. And so it's the gift of God that you wake up. It's the putting your soul back in your body again, and hopefully renewed as well. I know everything you read now says got to have 7 hours of sleep. How many people get 7 hours of sleep? Anybody? Yeah, right. Yeah, right. So the older you get, the more you say this prayer, because every time you wake up, you're going, yes, right. Well, yes. She sets her alarm. Oh, so the alarm will wake her up? She wants to be woken up? How many people have an alarm that wakes you up? You have an alarm that wakes you up? Yeah? No, it doesn't wake you up, right? You're up before the alarm goes off. Oh, yeah. I'm up before I don't even set an alarm because I just wake up. But that'd be achy. I didn't do anything all night, right? You just think you didn't do anything. Aging, yeah. Yeah, it's better than the alternative. Well, yeah. Okay, so after those prayers, there's this whole long list. You probably won't go over them all, but these are called Birchot HaShachar, traditional morning prayers. And I think I gave you 15 of them. Yeah, I gave you 15 of them. So these traditional morning prayers, interesting. I like the first one because it shows you at what era of our history it was created. Because in the rabbinic literature that talks about these morning prayers, it literally says, upon hearing the sound of the rooster, you should say this prayer. All of them begin, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, which I put at the very top, and then after Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam. By the way, many modern prayer books, the whole Reconstructionist movement being one of them, make suggested changes to Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, because literally it means blessed are you, Lord, our God, and those who try to be non-anthropomorphic and non-sexist, identifying God always with male attributes, tried to sort of maybe have alternative ways of saying the opening blessing. For me, never bothered me, because what I see the words Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam meaning is, this is a Jewish prayer. That's what I think it means. When you hear that, or however it's said or chanted, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, doesn't matter what comes next. It's a Jewish prayer, because we're doing it in Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam in Hebrew. So to me, that's literally what it communicates to people. In any event, the first one is Asher Natan L'Sichvi Bina L'Havkin Ben Yom Ben Laila, who gives the rooster the wisdom to know between day and night. I thought that was so kind of Fiddler on the Roofish, right? I mean, whatever era that is, it's everybody's wakes up because they hear the rooster in your shtetl, basically, But think about the thought behind this. It's also a prayer of acknowledging the animal kingdom created by God. So you don't need an alarm clock. You have a natural alarm clock. The roosters crow. And that there's a distinction between day and night. And day and night are not the same. There's a whole, in the Talmud, huge multiple conversations about which prayers you say in the day and which prayers you say in the night, and how do you know when it's day, and how do you count night, and you're supposed to say the Shema in the morning, and the beginning of the tractate Brachot, which means blessings, is like page after page talking about, well, when should you say the Shema then? When is it morning officially? For those of us who wake up at 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever, should you start saying the Shema the minute you wake up? Is it morning yet? If it's dark outside, is it still morning? And there's like long conversations of the rabbis in the Talmud about what constitutes morning. My favorite answer, there's a whole bunch of different ones, and they plot out the quarters of the night and when it has to pass or whatever. My favorite one is one of the Talmudic rabbis who said, it's day when you can see the face of your neighbor and know it's a friend. I love that. Then it's daytime. And everything about that is fabulous. All the associations of that is fabulous. So, you're woken up, so you say this traditionally. And you say, Baruch Atah Adonai, there's different orders of them depending upon different parts of the world. But these are the traditional prayers. She'asani b'tzalmo. Love this. This is, everybody's heard this 1,000 times. She'asani b'tzalmo, who made me in God's image. We all know, because I say it every time I'm with anybody, that the very first thing said about human beings in the Torah is that. In that creation story that we read last week, as a matter of fact, in every synagogue around the world, Bereshit, and we have those different versions of creation and 6 days of creation and what God creates and all that. When God creates human beings, the very first thing it said is that they're created b'tzelem, b'tzalmo, God says, in my image, in God's image. So, also, back to the neshama tohorahi, that my soul is pure, that too, which I know you've heard me say before, there's no except in that phrase in the Torah. It doesn't say God created human beings in God's image except women, gays, black people, Asians, people who speak Arabic, people who speak Spanish, except for now in our country, whatever. There's no except, right? Everybody is created in the image of God, according to Jewish tradition, because this is before Abraham, who's, quote, the first Jew. So all the beginning stories of the creation of the world and this week of Noah is about the whole world. It's not about us and our little community of Jews or children of Israel, because that started with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Sarah, and Rebekah, and Rachel, and Leah. This stuff is all pre that. In fact, the rabbis asked, why didn't the Torah begin with Abraham? It's a Jewish book. It's about us. It's literally about us and our relationship with God. It's about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Sarah, and Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, and then Egypt, and God frees us from Egypt, and it gives us the Torah, and et cetera, and gives us the land of Israel, and that's what it's about. And our prophets and our stuff and our relationship, good and bad, with God, abandoning God, doing what God wants. That's what the Torah is all about. That's what, in fact, the whole Hebrew Bible is all about, in a sense. So why didn't the Torah start with Abraham? It's our story. And for the rabbis, the obvious answer is because we don't believe in idolatry. We created monotheism. What we refer to as God, even with all these different names of God, and the Talmud says there are 70 names of God. There's a lot of them in the Torah. God is Adonai, God is Elohim, God is El Shaddai. There's all these Hebrew names that refer to God. Just El is the name for God. Because Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. In the beginning, God, the one that we're going to be talking about, who has a special relationship with us a little later in this book, created the whole universe. Why did we do that? To give God's credentials, so that when God chooses Abraham to have this special relationship with and makes this brit, this covenant, and says, circumcise your boys, and that's part of this covenant, and do all these things, and then we have this special relationship, and then God gives us the 10 Commandments, and God gives us the land of Israel, so that we have established already, there's not another God out there. This is the only God. This is the God who created everything. God created everything, then God has the right to give us whatever God wants. It's really to give us some credibility. So we start with God created the universe, and the earth, and the whole wonderful poetry of the opening chapter of Genesis. It was tohu vavohu, it was unformed and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and all that beautiful language of what the creation story was all about, to say that this is the same God that we are now talking about when we get to Egypt and Moses, and when we get to the 10 Commandments on Sinai, and when we get to all these things, same power created everything. And that power that created everything created every human being in that God's image. And therefore, the laws that we have in Leviticus, in our Holiness Code of Leviticus 19, that say, unlike America today, you should treat the stranger in your midst as the homeborn, because the stranger also is made B'Tselem Elohim in our tradition. That's what this religious language of Judaism is all about. Saying everybody, as hard as that is, because it's hard for us to accept people we don't like as equal to us, period. Just human nature. Everybody wants to be better than, richer than, better looking than, whatever, than somebody else. So we're always like in comparison. Comparison is the devil of the world. Comparison is what makes people unhappy. That is maybe in that instance. But I believe that why social media is so devastating, right? Why is it so devastating? Why are so many teenagers, mostly girls, hurting themselves or killing themselves literally as a result of social media? Because it's all the bullies in the world, but it's all about comparison. Comparison. Measure up to somebody, something, some ideal, some picture, some image. So Judaism tries to level the playing field from the very beginning, saying, God created the human being in God's image. Period. And it's reinforced with these morning prayers. That's part of what these morning prayers are about, is to remind us, this is the power of ritual. Why does ritual work? Any ritual. People have exercise rituals. People have personal hygiene rituals. People have, all kinds of, we have religious rituals. Why? Because we need reminders of everything, basically. So, every morning. This is the everyday prayers. Everyday prayers. In the everyday prayers, She'asani Yisrael, because who made me part of Israel. She'asani Ben or Bat Chorin, who made me free. My favorite was the most later addition to any list of prayer, and you won't even find it in most of them, is She'asani Kirtzono, which means who made me according to your will. Why? Because it's a perfect prayer for all of the misfits of the world, all of those of us who are hyperactive, all of those of us who are on a spectrum, all of those of us who are with anything, or who are gay, or who feel like they're not in the mainstream. In America today, if you're not an evangelical white male, I guess, seems to be the image that we're going for. But She'asani Kirtzono, who has made me according to your will, but it's such a powerful blessing to say. Thank you, God, acknowledging that who you are is who you were meant to be. I mean, imagine what that would actually do to people's self-esteem if they were willing to believe that who you are is who you were supposed to be. Not supposed to be somebody else. You're supposed to be you. There's only one you ever going to be. Nobody can do you better than you can do you. And you can't do somebody else. That one's already taken. Right? Everybody wants to be like, I don't know who, somebody. You need to be like you because you're the only you. And to me, this prayer says that. So it's like, and when I work with my Yom Shalom project, which is really working with Jewish teens about self-worth and kind of an anti-abuse sort of program that we do, teaching about healthy relationships. This is a powerful part of that, is getting kids to be willing to even entertain the notion that they're okay, who they are, and that they don't have to be whoever's a better image in their mind. It's hard for all of us. We all grow up insecure. I think I said that every time. That's fundamental to human nature, as we grow up insecure. Because we are insecure when we're little babies. We're totally dependent. So we're insecure. It never goes away. Piece of that is always in there, that, am I going to be okay? And then we have, in the modern world, anti-Semitism, and we have all the things going on to make us insecure. We have, October 7th and all that kind of stuff. And so we have reasons to be insecure. And sometimes that's healthy because you protect yourself. You take precautions, you lock the door, you do whatever you need to do. You have fire insurance, you have whatever. No one ever has no insurance. I don't think there's such a thing really as replacement. Right. No. Yeah. Yeah. If you don't know, you're supposed to be afraid. You don't know, you're supposed to not do something. You just, we learn, unfortunately, how many kids' first words are no, after all. Because it's what they heard so often. No. I was walking this morning, as I now do every day, around the Lake Calabasas. It's a beautiful place. I get up in the morning and I walk, and there's all these people walking people walking their dogs, and there's, hundreds of ducks and geese around there. So this guy's walking his dog, who sees all these geese like right on the lawn, and the dog is pulling, trying to, get to these geese, and the guy's going, no, 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 and I'm thinking, you think your dog speaks English, really? No, no, and shortening on the dog, and dog figured out that he wasn't supposed to because he was holding it, but they understand whatever, but probably not the language exactly, But no is what you hear first so many times. And we learn to be insecure. We learn to not do that. And then we get bullied in school and things. But these prayers identify God as, which is interesting, essentially as the provider of everything in our life. So, Pokeach Ivrim, who opens our eyes. We're going to take the time, which I won't right now, but I read these prayers when I read these prayers, I think of them all metaphorically. That is, the prayer is thanking God who Pokeach Ivrim, who opens our eyes. Well, what does that mean? Literally, I can see? Maybe. What else? What does it mean when suddenly your eyes are open? You become aware of whatever you become aware of, that we have discernment, that we can distinguish between good and evil, that we can distinguish between the good choices and the bad choices. We're thanking God that we have this ability to be aware. And every time we say something like that, we are implying a personal responsibility too. If I have the ability, then I'm responsible for the choices I make. So we thank God for opening our eyes. Malbish Arumim, who clothes the naked. So I say that, when I say that, I think about all the people out there that don't have clothes, and why we donate clothes, and, what it's like to be somebody who, had all their clothes burned up, and suddenly you didn't have any clothes. You go, oh, no, I got. And what a powerful thing it was, can't help it, talk about it, but what a powerful thing it was in the immediate aftermath of our fire in the Palisades and in Altadena, how, like, within a week and within 2 weeks, everybody was calling me saying, these people are giving away clothes. Those people are giving away clothes. Go to Beverly Hills. In Beverly Hills at the Civic Center, there's these 2 huge buildings that are now filled with clothes that you can come to give away from, brand new clothes, and I had one of my other rabbis, okay, called me, so you got to go. My wife and I were just there, you go, because it's like, this is serious. So we did, we went. And I don't even know where these people came from. I don't know where they came from. I don't know where they got all those clothes, but it was like going to a department store, right? You're walking around in different sizes and different clothes and jeans and things and shirts and stuff. A building with girl stuff and a building with boy stuff, right there. In fact, the tennis shoes that I walk every morning with are shoes I got there. Somebody gave me, balance shoes or something. It's like instantly people rallied around and came up with all this stuff to give to the victims of fires, and the hearts went. That was powerful. Malbish Arumim, who clothes the naked. The fact that people stepped up and did that was like, I've been crying every day, every time I would go to somebody, and they would walk in a store, all these stores that were giving away things, Lululemon. You walked in and they said, first $200 is free if you're a fire victim. And then it's 25% off anything after that. It's like, seriously? Generosity of heart, the opening of the heart, the connecting with the community, saying that somehow it was their responsibility to step up somehow. That's Malbish Arumim. That's like, how amazing to say that. What's more powerful this month than Matir Asurim, who frees the captives? Frees the captives. It's like, seriously, I don't even have to go into that. But so we say these prayers and we acknowledge God as the source of that, but at the same time, it's a reflection on us. Because throughout rabbinic literature, our challenge is to imitate God. God is this. Why do we identify qualities of God? Compassion, justice, caring, all these statements of the morning prayers. because it was a miracle to me was all these people who suddenly were willing to try to help fire victims, or all the people who rush to, when there's earthquakes around the world. By the way, the Israelis are always the first to get there. Israelis have this group, an official group that goes everywhere there are earthquakes to rescue people, and they are the first people, foreign people from not whatever that country is, to show up everywhere, every time. Because this is how we identify God's qualities so that we can remind ourselves, oh, I'm supposed to help clothe the naked, feed the hungry, house the homeless. So Kef Kufim, who raises up the fallen, those people who've given up hope. You raise up the fallen. This one, Rokaha Aretz Alamayim, this is the anti-tsunami one. This is God. It's a fascinating phrase in Hebrew. Rokaha Aretz Alamayim literally means who stretches out the earth to the water. And when I used to live in the Palisades, and when I used to drive down PCH every day, I would think of this prayer every day, and how grateful I was that the water stopped there. It's like, that's a miracle. And the rabbi's image, okay, God had the earth come right up to there. So it's not a tsunami. So it doesn't just keep going and flood everything, but there's boundaries. The whole creation of boundaries is a divine plan, according to the rabbis. And finally, number 11, Asali Kol Tzorchi, to thank God who provides me with all my needs. It's an interesting notion. It's the rabbinic idea that, look, we really are taken care of. We have the ability, the God-given, that's the notion, ability to take care of ourselves, to get food, to make food, to grow food, to have families, to have relationships, to build houses. And the more we react as a community in doing these, the more we literally take care of each other. I mean, that's certainly all of the Torah's ethics, is taking care of the poor, the widow, the stranger, and therefore ourselves as well, right? Who strengthens our steps, who girds Israel with strength, and the last two are about feeling good about being Jewish, who crowns Israel with splendor and gives strength. The last one, Hanoten la'ayaf koach, is the last one we say, because after we've said all these things and we wake up still tired, we go, okay, we have enough koach, we have enough strength to greet the day. So to me, and what I said about miracles, is because this to me is the Jewish tradition's idea of finding miracles in the everyday of our lives, starting with waking up, turning to our physical bodies as well, our souls that we have that lives in conjunction with our bodies, and then all of these blessings that abound in our lives. To acknowledge them as gifts from God is to acknowledge them as miraculous, because I didn't have to do anything for all those things to exist. That's God's gift. Okay, 2:16, I think I'm going to end. Thank you for coming, and I will be back next month.